Hey y'all, it's your mad mother of the internet again, or your mad woman, whichever one you prefer. And this is another update. This is one from Michigan, because Whitmer, or Whitless, or Dunsmore, or however you want to say the governor of Michigan's name, has completely flipped her fucking wig. We're going to read her order.
Never go full retard.
This is why it's a standalone video. Because along with reading her order and informing all the Michiganders that are following and subscribed to this channel, by the way, if you're not, this is your first reminder, I'll remind you again at the end of the video. It seems to me that Whitmore and a bunch of other state officials are trying to outdo each other in the sheer idiocy of what they're attempting to do in the name of public safety. This is probably going to go down as the first pandemic in history where governors have fought to see who was the biggest dummy. Because, okay, first you have de Blasio, however you want to call him. Then there's Kemp. DeSantis, who didn't want to do a state order at first. The one in Alabama, same thing. California still really doesn't have much of an enforcement in place. So you have all these governors vying for stupidity. Why is Whitmer highlighted today? Well, let's roll the intro and I'll explain it to you. I'm sure many of you have been seeing these headlines floating around about a sheer idiocy that can't possibly be true. We're getting to that. It's true. We're going to read through the order in highlighted passages that I will be putting above my left shoulder so you guys can actually see where I am reading this. The link to this order is in the description as always, so let's get into this. First, this one actually became effective the 9th of April and it expires April 30th. So please be aware of that. Violating this particular order is a misdemeanor, and this is the part of the video where I would normally tell you a fine and any possible jail time. But since there are high court misdemeanors and regular misdemeanors in Michigan, and she's not being too clear as to which one this would fall under, I can't give you any fine or possible incarceration information if you violate it. Just that it's a misdemeanor. Law's funny that way, and I like to be specific. First passage I highlighted. Subjects to the exception of Section 7 of this order, all individuals currently living within the state of Michigan are ordered to stay at home or at their place of residence. No person or entity shall operate a business or conduct operations that require workers to leave their homes or places of residence, except to the extent that those workers are necessary to sustain or protect life, healthcare workers, first responders, law enforcement, or to conduct minimum basic operations. She goes into more on this, but she pretty much means payroll, maintenance, and all that other junk. But we're going to go into it. We're skipping to B for this. So allow the business or operation to maintain the value of inventory and equipment, care for animals, ensure security, process transactions, including payroll and employee benefits, or facilitate the ability of other workers to work remotely. In other words, teleworking. Next passage. Businesses and operations must make such designations in writing, whether by electronic message, public website, or other appropriate means. Workers need not carry copies of their designations when they leave the home or place of residence for work. Why are you going to make them go through the trouble of emailing and notifying these people that their position is essential if there isn't a mandate in place for some reason for you to have to carry this? Wouldn't that then be a waste of time? I'm going to email you saying that your job is essential and that you need to be in the building, but you don't need to print it up to prove to me that you need to be in the building. Why write the email? Text them. Report to work. You're essential. Oh, Lord have mercy. Next passage. Businesses and operations that employ critical infrastructure workers may continue in-person operations subject to the following conditions. Because, you can always telework fixing a pothole. Businesses and operations must determine which of their workers are critical infrastructure workers and inform such workers of that designation. Businesses and operations must make such designations in writing, here we go again, whether by electronic message, public website, or appropriate means. Okay, the website's fine as long as you have a web dude that can, update it in a pretty timely manner, and then, the link can be dispersed. So, here we go. Business and operations need not designate workers in healthcare and public health. That should be self-explanatory. Workers who perform necessary government activities as described in Section 6 of this order. Workers and volunteers described in Section 9. We'll get to those sections in a minute. In-person activities that are not necessary to sustain or protect life must be suspended until normal operations resume. Businesses and operations maintaining in-person activities must adopt social distancing practices and other mitigation measures to protect workers and patrons. They go into what they mean by that later on. For purposes of this order, necessary government activities include activities performed by critical infrastructure workers, including workers in law enforcement, public safety, and first responders. Yes, she's very repetitive. Because now she's, explaining to you what she meant in the previous passage instead of sticking all that shit in one passage. This is why I hate legalese. Because if you have half a brain, you can dissimulate what the fuck she means. But no, it has to be spelled out. But it's got to be spelled out in a completely different paragraph from the one that it was originally written. Because, I don't know. Lengthiness, I guess. Next passage. Such activities include, but are not limited to, I always love that fucking phrase, public transit, trash pickup and disposal, activities necessary to manage and oversee elections. You heard that right. She's still going to have them primaries and them elections, yo. Operations necessary to enable transactions that support the work of a business or operations critical infrastructure workers, and the maintenance of safe and sanitary public parks so as to allow for act or activity permitted under this order. So, keep the parks open, basically. They're going to keep the parks clean so everybody can walk at 6-foot intervals. Don't mess with my toot-toot. Any in-person government activities must be performed consistently with the social distancing practices and other mitigation measures to protect workers and patrons described in Section 10 of this order. We're going to get to Section 10. Here we go. Exceptions. Individuals may leave their home or place of residence to engage in outdoor physical activity consistent with remaining at least 6 feet from people outside the individual's household. Again, if you're going to run, jog, or walk, you can do that in your neighborhood or your apartment complex, provided that nobody else is walking at the same time that you're walking. Or they're a good distance in front of you, like, 6 feet. These people that need to go to gyms are absolutely... I gotta go to a gym. Also includes hiking, cycling, kayaking, canoeing, or other similar physical activity, as well as any comparable activity for those with limited mobility. So you can kayak, canoe, bicycle, yada yada, as long as you're getting your fresh air. Because apparently doing that at your home or in your apartment complex is absolutely impossible. Recluses unite individually in your homes. We got this. Alright, next passage to highlight. To perform tasks that are necessary to their health and safety. Here we go. Leave the home or place of residence to secure medication or to seek medical or dental care that is necessary to address a medical emergency or to preserve the health and safety of a household or family member. To obtain necessary services or supplies for themselves, their family, or household members, their pets, and their vehicles. Individuals must secure such services or supplies via delivery to the maximum extent possible. In other words, if you have Instacart available in your area, pay the extra few dollars or whatever to get the groceries delivered to your home. Instacart also has like free delivery if you pay like $99 a year, which may work out to be more expensive than just paying the $5 delivery service fee. Who knows? The math isn't working right now. As needed, however, individuals may leave the home or place of residence to purchase groceries, take out food, gasoline, needed medical supplies, and any other products necessary to maintain the safety, sanitation, and basic operation of the residence. Sorry, I started chuckling because I'm sitting here now. I'm imagining a gasoline tanker going from house to house going, I'm delivering your gasoline order. How many gallons you need? I'm just the way my mind works. Just the way my mind works. Now would be a good time to take up cooking for those of you that rely on going out to eat more often than staying home and eating. Now would be a good time to teach yourself to cook. Epicurious.com, foodnetwork.com, hell, there are food tutorials on YouTube. Allrecipes.com is a really good site that you can go to because all those are really easy, including the instructions, because all those recipes pretty much are made by everyday people. You don't have to go out to eat every day. It's not necessary. It's not needed. You can make a better burger at home. Individuals should limit to the maximum extent that is safe and feasible the number of household members who leave the home for any errands. This makes sense. Okay? If you have one person that doesn't mind running the errands for everybody in the household, make a list. Give them your money if you guys have roommates. You know, rotate who goes out on what days if necessary, but try and limit it to one person. It's not that hard. To care for a family member or family member's pet in another household. To care for minors, dependents, the elderly, persons with disabilities, or other vulnerable persons. To visit an individual under the care of a health care facility, residential care facility, or congregate care facility to the extent otherwise permitted. In other words, assisted living, retirement homes, yada yada, those are open. Long-term care facilities and the like are open in Michigan. So you can visit your loved ones. Yes, I'm futzing with my hair. I touch my face too, that's why I need a dinger. To attend legal proceedings or hearings for essential or emergency purposes as ordered by court. You're not going to get out of your legal shit. To work or volunteer for businesses or operations, including both religious and secular nonprofit organizations that provide food, shelter, and other necessities of life for the economically disadvantaged. In other words, homeless shelters, soup kitchens, food banks, things like that. Just maintain your distance and follow CDC guidelines. That's all that is asked. To attend a funeral, provided that no more than 10 people are in attendance at the funeral. I've addressed that in other videos. Individuals may also travel to return to a home or place of residence from outside the state, to leave this state for a home or residence elsewhere. In other words, if you're staying in Michigan and you live in another state, you can go to that other state. Between two residences in this state through April 10th, 2020, after that date, travel between two residences is not permitted. In other words, starting April 11th, if you're visiting that household, I hope you got to change your clothes. It also probably more feasibly means no more going to the neighbor's house because you're bored. No more visiting your bruh because you're bored. That ain't allowed. As required by law enforcement or a court order, including the transportation of children pursuant to a custody agreement. Ain't getting none of them custody agreements, y'all. All other travel is prohibited, including all travel to vacation rentals. Just with the vacationing. No. I know you want to get out of here. Wait till the quarantine is... Hey, save your money. Wait till the quarantine is lifted. Then go on a vacation. Make it an after lockdown party. Just don't plan on going anywhere. Just stay home. Plan a staycation. I mean, shit. Okay, here we go. Consistent with the March 19, 2020 guidance document, the critical infrastructure workers include some workers in each of the following sectors. Some workers. Some. Healthcare and public health. Law enforcement, public safety and first responders. Food and agriculture. Energy. Water and wastewater. Transportation and logistics. Public works. Communications and information technology, including news media. Other community-based government operations and essential functions. Critical manufacturing. Hazardous materials. Financial services is in there. Chemical supply chains and safety. Defense industrial base. And here we go, section 9. For purposes of this order, critical infrastructure workers also include, putting this on the board, child care workers, including workers at disaster relief child care centers, but only to the extent necessary to serve the children or dependents of workers required to perform in-person work as permitted under this order. In other words, if there's no way you can telework, if you're a first responder, a healthcare person, or a law enforcement person, that is why that child care center is still open. Workers at suppliers, distribution centers, or service providers as described below. Any suppliers, distribution centers, or service providers whose continued operation is necessary to enable, support, or facilitate another business's operations or operations critical infrastructure work may designate their workers as critical infrastructure workers. You know, this legalese stuff, I tell you. Any suppliers, distribution centers, or service providers, basically supply line people and anybody supporting the supply line, meaning anything from the factories to the rail yards, the shipping yards, and the trucking companies. Logistics. Supply line and logistics. But they gotta spell it out because legal shit. Alright, here we go. Workers in the insurance industry, but only to the extent their work cannot be done by telephone or remotely. If your business has not upgraded to the point where you can fucking telework, now might be the time to consider. I mean, most of their shit's on a computer anyway. Workers at retail stores that sell groceries, medical supplies, and products necessary to maintain the safety, sanitation, and basic operation of residences, including convenience stores, pet supply stores, auto supplies and repair stores, hardware and home maintenance stores, and home appliance retailers. Okay, we're making sense. We're making sense. Workers at laundromats, coin laundries, and dry cleaners. I can see this, but in my mind I'm going back to when I couldn't afford to put those quarters in the washing machine, and I did what I called a tub load and washed that shit in my tub and hung it in the apartment to dry. If I can do it, and I'm pushing 50, y'all can too. Just saying. Workers at hotels and motels, provided that the hotels or motels do not offer additional in-house amenities such as gyms, pools, spas, dining, entertainment facilities, meeting rooms, or like facilities. In other words, she's not mandating any of the inns, motels, hotels, and yada yada to be closed, just that any access to entertainment facilities, any in-house dining, like room service and the like, and pools and shit, that can't be happening. It's just a hotel. You're there to sleep. Workers at motor vehicle dealerships who are necessary to facilitate remote and electronic sales releases or to deliver motor vehicles to customers. Because nothing's more important in the middle of a pandemic than buying that car. That's just ridiculous to me. This is fucking ridiculous. Okay. Businesses, operations, and government agencies that continue in-person work must adhere to sound social distancing practices and measures. Which, not limited to blah, blah, blah. So here we go. Developing a COVID-19 preparedness and response plan. Yada, yada. Restricting the number of workers present on premises to no more than is strictly necessary to perform the businesses, operations, or government agencies' critical infrastructure functions, or its minimum basic operations. Increasing standards of facility cleaning and disinfection to limit worker and patron exposure to COVID-19. Adopting policies to prevent workers from entering the premises if they display respiratory symptoms or have had contact with a person with a confirmed diagnosis of COVID-19. In other words, if you are one of these essential businesses that is open, you must have a policy in place not allowing admittance to anybody with a cough or a fever. Makes sense. Let me see here. Any store, here we go for stores. Any store that remains open for in-person sales under Section 5 or Section 9 of this order must establish lines to regulate entry in accordance with subsections C and D. In other words, you got to mark the floor in 6-foot intervals. You have to explore alternatives to lines by letting customers wait in their cars for text message or a phone call. That makes sense. To let them know that their order's ready so they can come in and get it. Stuff like that. They also want to make it easier for seniors and people with disability and, to go and get their shit and not be crowded, seeing their high risk. And apparently, well, I can understand why they don't want people coughing in with a fever shopping, because that's obvious, because you don't know if they've got the crud or not. And besides, people like me shouldn't be going out there anyway, not even with proper gear, because basically if you go out in public with gloves and a face mask on, you're advertising that you have some kind of cough. Consider establishing curbside pickup to reduce in-store traffic and mitigate outdoor lines. Instacart has both pickup and delivery options. You may have to plan your orders in advance to be delivered to the house, because they're running 3 to 4 days in advance with their bookings, because I tried that one time and had to wind up leaving the house anyway. Close areas of the store by cordoning them off, placing signs in aisles, posting prominent signs, removing goods from shelves, or other appropriate means that are dedicated to the following classes of goods. Carpet or flooring, I can see that. Furniture, not necessary right now. Garden centers and plant nurseries.
Hell no, to the no.
I can see the shrubbery. I can see decorative trees not being able to be bought because they're not essential. I can see decorative flowers, rose bushes, chrysanthemums, tulips, things like that not being able to be bought at a time like this because it's not essential. But for you to sit there and tell people they can't buy tomato plants, vegetable or fruit plants or vines to grow their own food in their own house because you don't consider that essential, Whitmer?
Here's your sign.
You're dumb. It's an idiot. You, in a time where you're trying to reduce people having to leave their house for shit, wouldn't it make more sense for those people to start growing their own food so they go to the grocery store less because they have their produce and their herbs at the house? So maybe the only thing they have to stock up on is maybe meat, dehydrated goods, and non-perishable items because they're growing a fucking fruit and vegetable garden with an herb garden in their backyard? Why are you gonna outlaw fucking plants that produce food? First of all, there is a lot of research out there that states that gardening can be stress relief. Great anger management, great stress relief, and it can be one hell of an exercise or at least physical activity depending on how big that garden is. And it's something for people to do while they're sheltering in place or locked down. Weeding, checking for the wrong kind of bugs, making sure the stuff is healthy and growing right, watering it, fertilizing it. All that takes effort, and the person would never leave their home. But no. Stores can't sell plants. Doesn't matter what the plants are. Oh, good fucking Lord. It's just really... I think you're competing with Kemp. Kemp has no defense. Living 6 miles from the CDC. And you being this stupid is just absolutely mind-boggling. Paint is another one. By April 13th, here we go, because she's not done with us yet. Refrain from the advertising or promo of goods that are not groceries, medical supplies, or items that are necessary to maintain the safety, sanitation, and basic operation of residences. So now you can't even advertise shit that she considers non-essential, including food plants.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Ah, I smell the heavy hand of the band hammer. I smell a woman who's gotten too big for her britches and thinks she's a monarchy. Now you're telling people what they can and can't advertise? Witless, I think you're crossing a line here. Create at least 2 hours per week of dedicated shopping time for vulnerable populations, which for purposes of this order are people over 60, pregnant women, and those with chronic conditions like heart disease, diabetes, and lung disease. Okay. How are you going to distinguish lung disease from COVID-19 when the testing for COVID-19 takes a couple of days? Are you going to make these people present their medical history at the door in order for them to be able to prove that they have chronic bronchitis, emphysema, asthma, or COPD, or any other lung disease out there that's not communicable? Now, would I want to be turned away at the door because I have a cough, because I have bronchitis? No. But when a cough cannot be distinguished between one illness and another, like I said, what are you going to do? Ask them for papers? Can I see your medical history so you can prove that this lung disease is something that nobody can catch? Did you really think this through? Because I don't think you thought this through. And that's another update in the can. From now on, any updates for your shelter in place are request only, obviously. And you can DM me through Twitter and Instagram. If you wish to email me and have me email you back information about your shelter in place, there's my email as well. From this date forward, all updates are going to be on my social media in the community tab here on my channel, so be on the lookout for that. If you like what you saw today, there's that red subscribe button you can make change a different color, and that bell that's as fickle as a pregnant woman in a grocery store. It may or may not notify you. Just check back often. YouTube has a habit of hating my channel. Until next time, my friends, stay safe, stay calm, stay informed, keep your distance, wash your hands, keep it away from your face, and I'll see you next time, my little misfits. Bye. To visit an individual under the care of a healthcare facility, residential care facility, or congregate, I can't English.